The Mauryan Empire was a vast and powerful state. It was founded by Chandragupta Maurya. His grandson, Ashoka, inherited this mighty empire around 268 BCE. In his early years as ruler, Ashoka was not known for peace. He was known for his ambition and his military strength. He wanted to expand the empire even further than his predecessors had. His goal was to bring all of the Indian subcontinent under his direct control. This ambition earned him the nickname Chandrashoka, which means Ashoka the Fierce. He was seen as a ruthless commander, focused solely on conquest and the consolidation of power across the land. This period of his reign was marked by military campaigns and a reputation for being a formidable and unyielding sovereign. Ashoka's early rule was a continuation of the Mauryan policy of expansion. The empire already stretched from the mountains of modern-day Afghanistan in the west to the plains of Bengal in the east. However, one significant kingdom remained independent on the eastern coast, Kalinga. This prosperous coastal state was a major center for trade and had a strong military. Its independence was a challenge to Ashoka's authority and his vision of a unified empire. He saw the conquest of Kalinga as a necessary step to secure his borders and complete the work his grandfather had started. The preparations for this campaign were extensive, showcasing the immense military resources available to the Mauryan emperor. Before his focus turned entirely to Kalinga, Ashoka spent his initial years consolidating his power within the empire. Historical texts suggest there might have been a struggle for the throne after his father, Bindusara, passed away. Ashoka, according to some legends, had to overcome his brothers to secure his position as the supreme ruler. This internal conflict would have further shaped his determined and often harsh approach to governance. He established a firm administration, ensuring that the provinces were loyal and that the imperial treasury was full. His focus was on efficiency, military readiness, and the unquestioned authority of the emperor, setting the stage for the massive military undertaking that was to come. The Mauryan army under Ashoka was one of the largest and most well-organized military forces of its time. It was composed of infantry, cavalry, chariots, and a fearsome corps of war elephants. This formidable machine of war was the primary instrument of Ashoka's imperial policy. He used it to enforce his will and to expand the boundaries of his dominion. The emperor himself was a skilled military strategist, and his early reign was defined by this martial prowess. The world knew him as a conqueror, a man who built his legacy on the battlefield. Little did anyone know that his greatest campaign would also lead to his most profound personal transformation, forever changing the course of his rule and his place in history. The invasion of Kalinga, which took place around 261 BCE, was the defining moment of Ashoka's life. The war was brutal and fought with incredible ferocity by both sides. Kalinga's army defended its homeland bravely, but it was ultimately no match for the overwhelming power of the Mauryan military machine. The conflict resulted in a decisive victory for Ashoka, and the kingdom of Kalinga was annexed into the Mauryan Empire. However, the price of this victory was staggering. The battlefield was a scene of unimaginable destruction and suffering. This was not just another conquest for the emperor, it was an event that would haunt him and fundamentally alter his perspective on life, power, and his responsibilities as a ruler. After the fighting had ended, Ashoka toured the conquered land of Kalinga. What he witnessed there changed him forever. He saw the devastation his ambition had caused. The fields were littered with the bodies of soldiers and civilians. Homes were destroyed and families were torn apart. An estimated 100,000 people were killed in the war, and over 150,000 were captured and deported. The sight of this immense human suffering filled the emperor with deep remorse and regret. The pride of victory was replaced by a profound sense of guilt. He realized that the glory of conquest was built upon the misery of countless innocent people, and this realization marked the end of Chandrashoka, the Fierce. This experience triggered a deep spiritual and psychological crisis for Ashoka. He began to question the very nature of his power and the purpose of his reign. He had achieved his goal of a unified empire, but the cost was too high. In his own words, recorded later in his rock edicts, he expressed his deep remorse for the conquest of Kalinga. He declared that even 100th or 1,000th part of the suffering caused in Kalinga would now be a matter of deep sorrow for him. This public admission of regret by a victorious emperor was unprecedented in ancient history. It signaled a radical shift in his thinking, moving away from military conquest towards a new ideal of governance. The Kalinga War effectively ended Ashoka's military career. He renounced war and violence as instruments of state policy. This was not merely a political decision, it was a deeply personal transformation. He vowed that he would no longer seek to conquer territory through force. Instead, he would seek to conquer the hearts of people through righteousness and compassion. This profound change of heart led him to explore new philosophies that could guide his rule. He began to search for a path that would allow him to atone for the violence he had caused and to build a better, more just society for all his subjects, a quest that would ultimately lead him to the teachings of the Buddha. Following his transformation, Ashoka embraced Buddhism. While he became a devout follower, he did not impose Buddhism as a state religion. Instead, he developed a unique policy he called Dharma. Dharma was a moral and ethical code based on the core principles of Buddhism, such as non-violence or ahimsa, tolerance, compassion, and respect for all living beings. It was a universal code of conduct that he believed people of all religions and social backgrounds could follow. His goal was to create a harmonious society governed by righteousness rather than by fear and force. This philosophy of Dharma became the new foundation of his imperial policy, replacing the old way of military aggression. Ashoka's adoption of Dharma fundamentally changed how he governed his vast empire. He saw himself no longer as a conqueror, but as a father figure to his subjects. He believed his duty was to ensure their well-being in this life and the next. To spread his message, he appointed special officials known as the Dharma Mahamatas. These officials traveled throughout the empire, teaching the principles of Dharma, ensuring fair treatment for all people, and reporting on the welfare of the citizens directly to the emperor. This was a revolutionary form of administration focused on social welfare and moral upliftment rather than just tax collection and control. It was a government that cared for its people's ethical and spiritual health. The emperor's new philosophy was also reflected in his personal actions. He gave up the royal hunts and other violent sports that were common for kings of his time. He promoted vegetarianism within the royal household and discouraged the unnecessary slaughter of animals throughout the empire. He established hospitals for both humans and animals, built rest houses for travelers, and planted trees and dug wells along major roads to make travel easier for his people. These public works were practical applications of his Dharma, designed to improve the quality of life for everyone living under his rule. His reign became a model of compassionate governance, guided by a sense of moral responsibility. To ensure his message would endure, Ashoka had his teachings carved into stone. These inscriptions, known as the Edicts of Ashoka, were placed on rock surfaces and massive stone pillars in public places all across the empire. They were written in local languages so that ordinary people could read and understand them. These edicts are our most important source of information about Ashoka's reign and his philosophy of Dharma. They serve as a permanent record of his commitment to peace, tolerance, and social justice. Through these stone inscriptions, Ashoka spoke directly to his people and to future generations, sharing his vision for a world ruled by compassion instead of by the sword. Ashoka's reign had a profound and lasting impact on the history of India. His policy of Dharma promoted a culture of non-violence and tolerance that became deeply embedded in the Indian ethos. By renouncing war and promoting peace, he set a powerful example for future rulers. His patronage was also crucial for the spread of Buddhism. He sent Buddhist missions to other countries, including Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, transforming a local Indian faith into a major world religion. This cultural and religious influence extended far beyond the political boundaries of his empire, creating connections that would shape the history of Asia for centuries to come. His rule marked a period of exceptional moral and ethical governance. The material legacy of Ashoka is still visible today. The massive stone pillars he erected, with their beautifully carved capitals, are masterpieces of Mauryan art and engineering. The most famous of these is the lion capital at Sarnath, which has been adopted as the national emblem of modern India. The wheel from this capital, known as the Ashoka Chakra, is at the center of India's national flag. These symbols serve as a constant reminder of Ashoka's ideals of peace, justice, and righteous rule. His edicts, inscribed on rocks and pillars, provide invaluable insight into the history, society, and philosophy of his time, making him one of the most well-documented rulers of the ancient world. After Ashoka's death around 232 BCE, the Mauryan Empire began to decline. His successors lacked his vision and administrative skill, and the vast empire eventually broke apart. However, Ashoka's legacy was not forgotten. He was remembered in Buddhist texts as a great and righteous king, a chakravartin, or ideal universal ruler. For many centuries, he was largely a figure of legend. It was only in the 19th century, when scholars deciphered the Brahmi script of his edicts, that the historical Ashoka was rediscovered. This rediscovery had a significant impact on India's struggle for independence, as leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru looked to Ashoka as an inspiration for a unified, tolerant, and non-violent nation. In conclusion, Emperor Ashoka's story is a remarkable journey from a ruthless conqueror to a compassionate and enlightened ruler. His transformation after the Kalinga War led to a new era of governance based on the principles of Dharma. His promotion of peace, social welfare, and religious tolerance left an indelible mark on Indian and world history through his rock and pillar edicts. He communicated a timeless message of ethical leadership that continues to resonate today. Ashoka the Great remains one of history's most compelling examples of how a ruler's personal change can shape the destiny of millions and create a legacy of peace that endures for millennia.